Coming to you live from the White Picket Studios in Houston, Texas. This is the Realty Ruckus. If you are in any way, shape, or form involved in the real estate industry, this is the show for you. And now, your host, Alan Hernandez.
Good morning, Houston. Thank you for joining us today on the Realty Ruckus show live here in the White Picket Realty Studios. Thank you again for joining us on a Friday. We're excited to be here. We have a phenomenal weekend planned out of selling houses. I hope you guys do too. We have 2 weekends left to do that. But before we get into that, I just want to talk about what's going on right now in the Olympics, man. Have you been watching some of these events?
Oh, man, the Olympics have been great this year.
So we actually have a Houstonian that just won gold. Did you guys see that?
No, not one.
Two.
Two in one night.
Yeah. 2 medals in one night. And I think she's out of like Sugar Land, Texas, which is right down the street from us.
So there's Simone Biles, and she's a gymnast, and she's from Spring. She's from the Spring area, and she won the gold last night. And then there's also Simone Manuel, and she's from Sugar Land. And it's kind of cool because Jason Bible, who's also in the real estate industry, apparently his son swims at the same training facilities wherever she trained at.
Really?
Yeah, that's pretty neat.
So they somehow know each other.
He's hoping that some of that juju will rub off in the water.
Right? You know what? I was watching the replay of the Michael Phelps race, right? The one that's really, really famous. He's now up to what, 22 gold medals?
23, including last night.
23 gold medals, including last night. Probably the record holder for the most medals won, the most Olympic medals won.
Yes.
And there's
he
this...
broke like a 2,000-year-old record or something like that for individual gold medals.
Yeah, so the individual gold before, I believe, was 14.
Something like that.
And he broke it last night with an individual goal. He was tied prior to last night, and then last night he broke it.
Man, how cool is that? I love it. And then there's this one meme where he's racing the guy from
the South Africa
guy.
Yeah, yes. He had been taunting him. The South African guy had been taunting him earlier, I believe, in the day or week.
I love it. Have you guys seen that meme that's going around right now?
Yeah, it's got that quote. I think it says, "Winners focus on winning, and losers focus on winners."
Yes, and you got the picture of the guy just staring at Michael Phelps as he's just chugging through that water, and he's just focused on going, completely straightforward. I love that, man. And it's funny because my wife sent it this morning. We got up super early. We already started school. I told you guys about that. School starts early for private schools. And actually next week, some of the other, I think, elementary school starts. And then after that, then we have everyone starting school. So most people in Houston will be in school by August 22nd, from what I understand.
Yeah.
That means we have 2 more weekends to sell our active inventory, right? And if you guys are out there buying and selling houses, you guys that are watching us on YouTube, Facebook Live, if you guys are out there, this is the weekend for you guys to go host an open house. This is time for you to go out there and literally go all out. Throw as many open house signs as you can. Bring the cookies, bring the sandwiches and the wine or whatever it's going to take to get people to your open house this weekend, because there's a small rush that happens right in the next 2 weekends, and we want to take as much advantage of it as possible. And so we talked about, what we're going to have to do to get our houses sold. And when we get back, we're going to give you guys all of those tips, tell you exactly what we're doing to not only host an open house, but sell your active inventory this weekend. We'll be right back. Hey realtors, I have a challenge for you. Walk into your broker's office and ask him to show you how to do a net listing, a wholesale investment transaction, or a subject to. I'm Alan Hernandez, broker of White Picket Realty, and my team and I have been doing these type of transactions for years. We can show you how to do the same and turn small deals into big checks. If you're interested in learning more, please contact join at teamwpr.com. JOIN at teamwpr.com.
Hey Houston investors, do you have a couple deals under your belt, but now you're looking to scale in a more structured way? If so, then the House Flipping Network provides guidance to those looking to grow their real estate business. It's also a great way to mastermind with our experts and groups of like-minded investors just like yourself. If you're interested in more information, reach out to me, David at houseflippingnetwork.com. That's David at houseflippingnetwork.com.
Hey Houston, this is Alan Hernandez, and I want to remind you guys to visit our friends over at Quest IRA to learn everything there is to learn about investing with your IRA. Now, if you haven't been over there recently, you have to check them out. They have free educational classes, networking opportunities, the ability to tap into $1 billion for your real estate investing deals. These are the guys to know when it comes to learning about this kind of stuff. You want to make sure you visit them and check them out over at www.questira.com. Again, that's questira.com.
Hey everyone, this is David over at White Picket Realty, and I wanted to tell you about my friends over at Plans Express who can save you the headache of running your own permits. These guys are committed to offering a one-stop solution for all your plan and permit needs. They're proudly serving their friends and neighbors in the Houston surrounding areas, and they offer great service at an exceptional value. With dedicated professionals ready to serve, contact them today at 832-675-6217.
And we are back on the Realty Ruckus. David, how's the weather going to be for us this weekend?
Super, extremely hot. 101 today. Heat index over 110.
I feel like he says this every time we ask him.
Hey, man, I can't wait for it to change.
Do the weather? Can we just say it's going to be hot every time?
Yeah, it's hot.
And just call it a day? What else do we get?
It will change, though. It will change.
It's coming.
You know, it's crazy because
winter is coming.
Football's back. Fall is coming.
Yes, we got football coming, man. Who's not excited about that? Finally, something to do, something to watch. Sorry about that. I feel like what was it? Cruz, who took a water break in the middle of a speech. So we got to get back. We got to get back to talking about. We got to get back to talking about Phelps, because you just yelled at me for not bringing up the fact that one of our Olympic gold winners is the first female African American to win a gold medal. And that's a big deal. And we want to talk, we want to celebrate that. We want to bring that up because I totally skipped over that. And BB, during the break, yelled at me and called me insensitive for not bringing that up.
Did not call you insensitive.
So you know what else? Because I mean, I don't get a chance to watch every one of them. My wife records all of the Olympics. When I get home, she's like, "Hey, we got to watch the Olympics." And I'm like, "All right, you know, that's cool, and I'll watch as much as I can." But you know, after about 30 minutes, I'm done.
You're done?
I'm done. You know, and that's the thing. Like, as much as I love, you know, like my kid goes to swimming class. So like I like to see, you know, Michael Phelps do his thing and whatnot. But it's those, they're not sports that I that I follow, you know. So I just like the fact that we win a lot of gold medals.
I don't think anybody naturally follows any of the Olympic sports.
That's true.
It's the Olympics, though.
That's
it only
true.
happens every 4 years.
That's true. I can't argue with that. All right. Well, look, can we get back into talking about real estate? Because everybody wants to talk about real estate.
I think you want to talk about real estate.
I want to talk about real estate because this is a real estate show, and when we start talking about other things, then I take a sip of my drink and talk about Cruz having a sip of his drink. So anyway, let's talk about what's happening this weekend, and let's talk about what some of the things that we're doing to help sell our property, and why it's important for you guys to really focus. Literally for the next 2 weekends on selling your houses. Anything that you have active right now needs to sell, because after the 22nd, when everyone gets back into school, things seem to slow down just a little bit. Well, more than that. There is quite a bit of a slowdown. So one of our agents asked me, what are some great tips to host a phenomenal open house? So what do you guys think? What are some of the things that we've done to host a phenomenal open house? Can you think of something that would be out of the ordinary? Of course, everyone goes out there and throws a sign, puts it on MLS. But what are some other things that agents should be doing to go above and beyond to get traffic to their open houses? So if you guys have a comment, if you guys have tips or some ideas, drop them down below. Let's talk about those. Let's figure out how we can help some of these agents move them. David, if you see anybody put some tips down there, let me know, and let's see if we can come up with something that will help sell all of our inventory. For sure, I can tell you there's a couple things that we do. One, we like having the nice, open house signs, something that actually looks professional. I see sometimes that agents have these old beat up, almost handwritten bandit signs. Hey, open house with a little arrow. I think that looks horrible. I like having professional signage, and I actually want to go out there and throw one on every entrance of the neighborhood, and then I'll go drive about a quarter mile in the area and throw signs to guide people to the house so I can get some drive-through traffic. So I like doing that. Once the people are there, I want them to have a good experience, but the important part isn't the cookies or whatever you give away. If you have a raffle or whatnot, that's great, because you should be collecting everyone's contact information, and that's a great way to do that. Giving something away is a great way to collect their name, number, and email address so that you can add them to your CRM. But how do you get people there? How can you actually get people to an open house? Most open houses that we see will have less than 10 people show up.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And you sit there as an agent, and you'll have an open house, and some investors do open houses on their own homes as well. And you may do that you may be there for 3 hours. Sometimes, some people get real aggressive and go 4 hours. And just to have, 10 people walk in, and most of them are neighbors just kind of cruising by, sometimes it feels like a waste of time, doesn't it? Especially when you're an agent and you're new and you're trying to look for buyers.
Well, I get that argument all the time. I've never sold a house at an open house. I get that argument all the time.
Yeah.
So why do the open house? Why even take the time to do it?
Well, for one, it's exposure, right? It's exposure. And the truth is, you're probably not going to sell the house at an open house, and an agent that's going into a house and thinking that the perfect buyer is going to walk in and fall in love with the house, and then on top of that, let that agent represent that buyer, no qualms, no issues, just sign me up, write up the contract. That's probably 1 in a million.
Yeah, it's too good to be true.
It's too good to be true, and for you to have that expectation going into it, it's the wrong expectation. So that's why you get upset as an agent, and you think, oh, I didn't do a good job having an open house. But it's not about that. Having an open house isn't about you going there and immediately selling it. It's about creating exposure for yourself. It's about creating exposure for your brand. And if you're a smart agent, it's about collecting information. It's about farming the area. And what information am I talking about? Well, I just said it a while ago. You need a name, you need a phone number, and you need an email address. Why are those 3 things so important? Is it just because I want to add people to my phone book? I mean, people should be, as an agent, you should know that if you have someone's phone number and email address, it's almost like having their social security number. You seriously can do so much just with that contact information that even with their social security number, you couldn't. What can you do? What are some of the things you can do with someone's phone number nowadays? Do you know you can find them on Facebook? You can literally type in someone's number, find them on Facebook. You can do the same thing with their email address. If you have a list of their phone numbers or email addresses, you can do the same thing. So that's one way that you can say, hey, I'm going to create a campaign just to the people that I've met on open houses, even if it's 20 or 30 people, and you can create an ad that pops up every time. Now you've created exposure for yourself to those people. That's one thing. 2, can you call them next time you have a deal in the area, or next time anybody has a deal in the area? Hey, this one just popped up. Do you want to go take a look at it? If they don't have representation and you're the first person to call them, hey, all of a sudden you're their resource. You're their contact person that's going to keep them in the loop on something that's popped up, right?
Yeah, and Curtis Warden, he made a good point here on the comments. He says he's sold 3 at open houses. And then on the next comment, he says, but it wasn't the house he was doing the open house at. It was another house that he had in production.
There you go.
So he obviously did the right thing, put those people in some type of drip campaign or continue to follow up with them, which, he didn't get the house that he was holding open sold, but down the line, he was still able to make, money off of that.
Yeah.
Those clients.
And that's how you build your pipeline. We get, agents that come in and they may not have a lot of business. If you want to build your pipeline fast, why not go out there and expose your name to neighborhoods that you want to be in, or even if you want to be selling houses that are $600,000 houses plus, wouldn't you want to go out there and have open houses in those neighborhoods?
Yeah.
Even if they weren't your listings, you want to do that. And if you know how to cultivate that contact information, it's just as much as gold, because you can really make a lot of money doing that. Anyway, we have a lot more to talk about here in the next episode, but we got to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Hey realtors, I have a challenge for you. Walk into your broker's office and ask him to show you how to do a net listing, a wholesale investment transaction, or a subject to. I'm Alan Hernandez, broker of White Picket Realty, and my team and I have been doing these type of transactions for years. We can show you how to do the same and turn small deals into big checks. If you're interested in learning more, please contact join at teamwpr.com. JOIN at teamwpr.com.
Hey Houston investors, do you have a couple deals under your belt, but now you're looking to scale in a more structured way? If so, then the House Flipping Network provides guidance to those looking to grow their real estate business. It's also a great way to mastermind with our experts and groups of like-minded investors just like yourself. If you're interested in more information, reach out to me, David at houseflippingnetwork.com. That's David at houseflippingnetwork.com.
Hey Houston, this is Alan Hernandez, and I want to remind you guys to visit our friends over at Quest IRA to learn everything there is to learn about investing with your IRA. Now, if you haven't been over there recently, you have to check them out. They have free educational classes, networking opportunities, the ability to tap into $1 billion for your real estate investing deals. These are the guys to know when it comes to learning about this kind of stuff. You want to make sure you visit them and check them out over at www.questira.com. Again, that's questira.com.
Hey everyone, this is David over at White Picket Realty, and I wanted to tell you about my friends over at Plans Express, who can save you the headache of running your own permits. These guys are committed to offering a one-stop solution for all your plan and permit needs. They're proudly serving their friends and neighbors in the Houston surrounding areas, and they offer great service at an exceptional value. With dedicated professionals ready to serve, contact them today at 832-675-6217.
And we are back on the Realty Ruckus, and we're discussing things that you can do with these last couple of weeks left that are in summer to go ahead and get your properties sold. So if you have properties out there that are on the market right now and aren't selling, these are some things you can be doing. And the first one we talked about may seem like an obvious one because we're talking about open houses, and everyone's thinking, okay, well, everyone does open houses. That's not that obvious. But during the break, we were talking about how much more important it is. It's not just about the open house. It's about so much more than just the open house.
Right. And that's what agents that are new to the business miss completely. They think I'm gonna go sit at a place for 2 hours and hopefully someone shows up. And that's literally what they do. And if someone shows up, they're like, oh yay, and if no one shows up, they're all sad about it. But they didn't do anything to prep for it. They didn't actually create an event out of it, which is what we were talking about on the break. Is how do you get people there? What would make people in the neighborhood excited about coming to see your house?
Well, I think first of all, you have to kind of strike curiosity in people.
Yeah.
Which is the reason, if you look at the old books about why people put balloons outside of open houses, it's to strike curiosity. It's what's going on inside of that house. Mm-hmm. And I'm not necessarily saying go and doing the balloons. It's not a horrible idea. It actually shows that more people show up that way.
Yeah.
But find ways to make your open house unique to the other open houses. Don't necessarily have an open house. Make an event out of it. So invite neighbors, invite people in the local area. Let them know that you're doing some type of event as opposed to just doing the same old boring open house. Show up, sign in on some list, walk around the house, and leave.
Well, we have a $1 million listing over in the Heights right now. And one of the things we did is we created a Matterport. All right. Have you guys heard of Matterport?
No.
Okay. Matterport is a really, really cool new technology that takes a 3D picture of a room and then connects all of the pictures into one giant file. and then you can literally walk through the house just by clicking through the different picture points and tour the house in 3D.
It's like a virtual tour.
It's a virtual tour, but but it's not a video of of someone just walking through the house.
Right.
It's you walking through the house at your own pace and looking at whatever you want.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really neat. So on our high-end listings, we require that for our agents. And on this one, what we did is we created an ad. So we have an open house this weekend. We created an ad for it that said, new technology allows you to virtually walk this house. And when we submitted that ad to just people in the neighborhood, right? Anybody that made over a certain amount of money that would potentially be moving. We targeted a couple different types of people. And then we submitted that ad just to get clicks to that ad. And then in that ad talks about that the house would be open this weekend, so you can go out there and check it out, et cetera, et cetera. So that's just one thing that we're doing to drive traffic to that specific open house this weekend. Now, whether we sell that house or not, it's not about that. We just talked about it. What else can we do?
Well, if you know anybody who's artsy, like anybody who's an artist or maybe a band, something like that is something good, because then you do an event. You say, hey, come out here, or for instance, the kids, the community. If you have like a church, you do a church fundraiser, maybe a school fundraiser, you have it there at the open house.
Yeah.
Always get your client's permission, though, because a lot of people aren't going to be there for the house itself. But the important thing is find traffic, because as you said in the last segment, you may not find the person there, but you may find somebody who knows the person who could come there.
Yep.
And so it may not always be someone who's an interested buyer at the time. It may be somebody they know, or they may have another house.
It's so funny you mentioned that, because one of the things that people get annoyed with is like, oh man, it's just another nosy neighbor coming to look at the house. And what they don't realize is that nosy neighbor wants their friends and their family to live around them.
That's right.
That's
And
exactly
so
right.
a lot of the times they're going there to go look at the house, so that then they can go to their friend that's looking for a house and be like, oh, there's one right down the street from me.
You should come
live
see
by
this
me.
house. It's phenomenal.
Exactly.
Blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
So there's
And-
a lot more value to those nosy neighbors than people take into consideration.
But that's what I'm saying. If you let that nosy neighbor walk in and out of your property, and you didn't find a way to collect that nosy neighbor's contact information, then you, the agent, failed, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely do a
failed.
disservice to your client.
Yeah. So what can you do to get that nosy neighbor's contact information? Because if you sit there in the front and you say, hey, I need you to sign in, most people are like, yeah, whatever, and they scribble something on a piece of paper, right?
I've done that before.
You can't ever
Right.
read
Right.
whatever they put in there. You can't ever read it, So what can you get to actually get their real contact information?
I mean, one thing you can do is offer a raffle.
I like that.
People love free. I mean, that's just the
love
reality.
free.
People love free. And as soon as they see that they can win something, even if it's a $50 Papa's gift card,
Yeah.
they're like, that's a $50 Papa's gift card I didn't have before.
Even if it's $20 to
Exactly.
a sandwich place nearby or something,
It-
people like free.
It doesn't have to be extravagant, and people don't realize the value of their contact information.
Yep.
Their contact information is worth way more than that $20, but they don't see it that way.
That's right.
You see, and I think another thing you do is you put a fishbowl up front, a fishbowl or like a tip jar. I mean, how many times do people leave their business cards there when there's a thing, kind of like going to Subway. You go to Subway, you order a sandwich, you feel like you have to tip somebody because there's a big jar in front of it that says tips. So the most way to get an accurate contact is get somebody's business card.
Yeah.
And by putting a jar in there front and says, hey, please leave your business card, 80% of people will do that.
That's not a bad idea. And for the people that don't show up with business cards, maybe have a blank one that they can fill out. And you can say, hey, at the end of today's open house, I'm going to be picking a business card, and they're going to win something, whatever it is. But you're going to give something away in exchange for that business card.
Oh, yeah, man, and people are so willing to do it. Think about restaurants. Always at the front of a restaurant, there's a fishbowl that says, win a free lunch if you leave your business card here.
Right.
And I don't know if anyone here has ever won that free lunch. A lot of people win that lunch because usually it's some type of sales presentation. It's usually like a timeshare sales presentation that you didn't even realize you signed up for.
Yeah.
But by putting your business card in there, and that thing is always full.
Yep.
That shows you how much people love free. They're willing to give up their time for that presentation that they don't even know what the penalty is for it. They're just, free lunch? Okay, here's my business card.
Yeah, exactly. So there's some ideas, guys, to help you put together a amazing open house this weekend. Again, it's not about you sitting there for 2 to 3 or even 4 hours. We have an open house this weekend that's 3 hours long. That's why I'm mentioning that. It's not about that. It's not about just sitting there. It's about getting people to the place. It's about collecting their contact information, and it's about you following up like crazy with these people, introducing yourself, making sure that they know who you are, and then you want to find at least 3 to 4 ways for them to continuously see your face, not just your name, your face. And that means you're going to have to follow up through Facebook if you can find them on there, maybe send a postcard, something, find a way to get in their face and eventually on their fridge as their new potential agent, a person they can call when they need some real estate advice. I mean, and that's ultimately, what Curtis was saying is eventually I sold a house, but it was because I had an open house at at this other property. So,
Yeah.
and that I do believe that happens all the time.
Yeah, I think that the best advice for somebody who's new in the industry that they can take from that is the waste of time is not the open house.
Right.
It's only a waste of time if they didn't work to get people to that open house.
Yeah.
Because you will get results eventually from an open house, but don't expect to get a contract for that property right there on the spot. That's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Now, here's the deal. We talk to our agents a lot about saving time. Don't go out there and do tasks that are repetitive. Find VAs, find assistants to help you with this stuff. Can an assistant do an open house for you?
Legally, yes.
Legally speaking,
Legally
they can
they can,
sit there.
right.
They can sit there and collect people's contact information.
Without a doubt.
Now, what can an assistant not do at the open house?
They're not allowed to negotiate.
Right.
Isn't that right?
That's correct. They're not. That's ethically. That's got nothing to do with right or wrong. It's got everything to do with a license to practice to real estate.
Yeah.
So if you are a realtor, in order to negotiate the price, you have to be licensed. And that's part of the agency relationship as well as the Trek parts.
So you can send your assistant to do the open house, all right? And if you have a full-time assistant, it's not going to cost you much. If you have someone that's on an hourly basis, maybe you pay them a little extra for the weekend. You can actually hire tasks goers or runners to do open houses for you. They'll charge you anywhere between $50 to $75 for a couple hours to go there and do everything you need them to do. And all you got to do is tell them exactly how you want things. They'll go out there and do the open house for you. So it doesn't actually have to be you doing the open house, but you do have to have them regardless.
Oh yeah.
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 And if you're an agent that's a little bit more advanced, you've been doing this for a little while, going to the next level is to get one of your assistants to go there and do exactly what you would have done. And maybe you have a couple of them. Maybe you're at your best one, your highest price point one, and your assistant is at your other one, and then you hire someone for your third. And then you could be exposing your name, your brand, your listings to multiple people, multiple places at one time. So that's it. Looks like I'm running out of time, or can we continue talking?
No, you got plenty of
Oh,
time.
okay, I saw you do this, and when you tell me to do that, it means quit ranting and move on, man.
No, I was just spinning this pin
Oh,
around.
well, yeah. So, to tie that up, just to give you guys some other ideas, I like the idea of having an art show at the house, and
Right.
I've seen that before. I've seen it happen, and I've seen it work. Where hey, we're partnering up with this artist, and he's going to bring all of his art. He'll go ahead and set it up
Right.
throughout the house, and then you set up an event, and you set up an event through Eventbrite, and obviously people that check Eventbrite will get notices of events that are near them. I don't know if you guys have noticed that. That's the best thing about Eventbrite is that once you've gone to one deal on Eventbrite, they'll email you next time there's an event near your place.
Really?
Yeah.
Or the same interest of
Or of the
previous
same
events you had
interest
Wow.
or anything nearby. Yeah, I mean it's
awesome right there.
It's a phenomenal website, man. I mean that's why we do all of our events through there, because we get people at our events that have never even heard of us just because Eventbrite recommended our event to them.
Wow.
Yep.
And
So-
they may be interested in looking at a new house.
They may, and that's the
Right.
thing. You don't know, and it's not just about what they want. It's about what the people that they know want. So we really like, doing that. So we set it up on Eventbrite. Next thing is Facebook. Facebook, to me, it's a big deal because you can target people. And if you've ever created an ad on Facebook, you can literally target people down to, if they rent or buy, or if they're getting ready to move, or what kind of income they make. You can target people down to, where they live, what neighborhood. If you can think about it, you can probably find a way to target that person on Facebook.
It's scary.
It's pretty scary.
Right.
If you've ever showed interest in anything on Facebook, they keep track of that. If you've showed interest in, for example, me, I like to go mountain biking a lot. So I'll get actual, ads from Facebook about mountain biking, sales stuff that they want to sell, So anything that you've ever showed interest in, they know, which means anything that anyone else has ever showed interest in, you can target. You can use that information and say, hey, I know you're getting ready to move. Why don't you come check this house out,
Well, that's exactly how the value is created for those companies, through that information processing. Just the same way with Google. And another reason why Google AdWords is so powerful as well for landing pages.
I remember when there was like a hoax that was going around saying that everyone was gonna get charged like $5 a month for Facebook, and people were like, "Oh, that's it. I'm never, I'm logging off. I'm never going on there." You guys get that? It was like a year or two.
Well, it's like what happened to MySpace. I mean, what happened to MySpace? It just gone away.
It's gone.
I know. Why did they go away?
Facebook.
Perception.
You think so?
Yeah.
I never had a MySpace. I wasn't cool enough to have a MySpace. I didn't know how to actually make the page or even what to put on it.
It was just like Facebook.
Was it?
Yeah.
Well, Facebook's a little bit easier because when someone tags you, it automatically goes on your page. Like, I've never uploaded a single thing on my Facebook page, and it's full.
That's true.
Because people just tag me, and then it automatically goes. Like MySpace, you have to actually click it on there, and I think that's why
you had to work at your page, right?
Right. And my page was always terrible because you'd come on my site and I would have no life.
Ashley had a MySpace, guys. We're gonna have to look this thing up.
I would need to find.
We're gonna have to look this thing up now.
Find this thing.
Oh Lord!
We're gonna find you on MySpace now.
Oh wow, it looks very different.
It's gonna have the little stars in the back.
I was a lot younger then.
Yeah. So, all right.
Did you find it?
Is it really on there?
Hold on.
While he finds it, if he does find it, we'll put it down below, guys, for you guys that are watching. Anyway, the point of all of that, guys, is that this weekend is an important weekend, and not just about putting cookies out at your events. It's about getting people there, collecting their contact information, and then cultivating that. So make sure that if you're an investor, that your agent is doing that. If you're an agent, get out there and do it. You got 2 weekends to sell out of your active inventory. It's time to get out there and do some work, and take advantage of what's happening before the slowdown when people start going back to school. So, all right, when we get back, we'll talk a little bit more about some of the entrepreneur FAQs, and then we're going to get into some legal conversations with Ashley.
Sounds good.
We'll be right back. Hey realtors, I have a challenge for you. Walk into your broker's office and ask him to show you how to do a net listing, a wholesale investment transaction, or a subject to. I'm Alan Hernandez, broker of White Picket Realty, and my team and I have been doing these type of transactions for years. We can show you how to do the same and turn small deals into big checks. If you're interested in learning more, please contact join at teamwpr.com. JOIN at teamwpr.com.
Hey Houston investors, do you have a couple deals under your belt, but now you're looking to scale in a more structured way? If so, then the House Flipping Network provides guidance to those looking to grow their real estate business. It's also a great way to mastermind with our experts and groups of like-minded investors just like yourself. If you're interested in more information, reach out to me, David at houseflippingnetwork.com. That's David at houseflippingnetwork.com.
Hey Houston, this is Alan Hernandez, and I want to remind you guys to visit our friends over at Quest IRA to learn everything there is to learn about investing with your IRA. Now, if you haven't been over there recently, you have to check them out. They have free educational classes, networking opportunities, the ability to tap into $1 billion for your real estate investing deals. These are the guys to know when it comes to learning about this kind of stuff. You want to make sure you visit them and check them out over at www.questira.com. Again, that's questira.com.
Hey everyone, this is David over at White Picket Realty, and I wanted to tell you about my friends over at Plans Express who can save you the headache of running your own permits. These guys are committed to offering a one-stop solution for all your plan and permit needs. They're proudly serving their friends and neighbors in the Houston surrounding areas, and they offer great service at an exceptional value. With dedicated professionals ready to serve, contact them today at 832-675-6217.
And we are back on the Realty Ruckus, and we were discussing things that you can do to make your property sell faster, but now we want to jump into our legal segment, and we have our resident attorney here, Ashley Patton from Patton Law Firm, a Texas American Title. And Alan, you had a pretty interesting scenario that you wanted to bring up, and I'm sure everyone's run into this before. It has to do with you've got a property under contract.
Yep.
You're the seller, or you're representing the seller.
I'm representing the seller in this one.
Right. And you get a repair amendment. And you do the things on the repair amendment.
Right.
But then the buyer is not satisfied.
That's correct.
So, well, go ahead with your scenario, and then
Well,
we'll
that is basically in a nutshell is all right. So we have a repair amendment, and this is a brand new house.
Okay.
It's an investment property, and the owners, they're not very knowledgeable on construction. So what ends up happening is they'll sub everything out to another contractor to go out there and fix it. All right. Now the contractor's gone out there, fixed everything as per the inspection report.
Okay.
Everything's fixed. Now the buyers are coming back and saying, well, wait a minute. Yeah, everything's fixed per the inspection report, but the house isn't perfect to our standards, to our liking. So, and it's little stuff. There's a piece of trim that just it's off by less than a quarter of an inch, but they want it to be perfect. There is a board on the floor that the edges are slightly higher, which can be easily fixed.
Cosmetic stuff.
Cosmetic stuff. They
Right.
want it to be perfectly done, cosmetically perfect. Now, they're saying, their argument is, well, unless it's to our liking, we're going to cancel the contract and we want our earnest money back. Of course, the sellers are like, well, hey, we did everything on the repair list. Everything you requested is done, and it'll pass an inspection. If you cancel the contract, you're not getting your earnest money back. So now there's that argument of who's right.
Well, if it's beyond the option period, they may not be able to cancel the contract. So this is not like building a home. If the home is already substantially complete, basically most contracts are written as is. So you sell a property as is, where is, how is. And cosmetic problems, you always want to fix that because you want a happy buyer. But some buyers will never be happy.
That's right.
And unfortunately, unless the buyer hires a contractor, the buyer's not going to get what he wants. Yeah. And so the suggestion is, and maybe in a case like that, is before you go out and spend a lot of money if you're paying a contractor, provide an allowance. I mean, if you know they're a picky buyer, provide a closing allowance. Raise the price and give it. If you raise the price $1,500, you give $1,500 allowance. $5,000, you raise the price by $5,000. So make it to where, if you have a finicky, which after talking to them once or twice during a contract negotiation process, you can kind of identify a finicky buyer from a non-finicky one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you're right. We've been in this situation before where we know the buyer, regardless of what we do, is never going to be happy.
Right.
And in our experience, and BB, correct me if I'm wrong, in our experience, we realized when you have that buyer, it's almost better not to work with that buyer.
Right.
It's almost better to just cancel the contract and move on to the next.
Well, don't leave money on a tree. I mean, it's a picket. It's a just put yourself away from him to where put him more in control. Hey, let him hire his own contractor. That way he can be, pardon my French, he can be an a-hole with him.
That's true, and that's not a bad idea.
That's not a bad idea at all.
Not a bad idea at all. Well, good. Let's move on that one. I think we have a really good question on here, and it's actually from one of our listeners. It's Michael Buckles. He says, "How can I wholesale a nice property, and the end buyer wants to finance the property with FHA?" So here's what's probably happening with Michael Buckle, and and thank you very much, Michael, for listening to our show, and thank you for asking this question. This is probably a question that has gone through every wholesaler's mind. I know I've been there when I was wholesaling a lot, and I know that anyone that gets into the business doesn't understand why that's not possible. Because it makes sense. Hey, I found a pretty nice property there. I got it under contract for a little bit less than the market calls for.
Right.
I'm going to sell it to this person, and they're an FHA buyer.
Retail, yeah.
And then I'm going to sell it retail, and I'm going to make great money, and it costs me nothing to do it.
Yep.
All right. So I'm sure that's what Michael's thinking, and I'm sure that's what everyone else who thinks about this goes through. And let's say you decided to try it. What would happen, you think, Ashley?
Well, you got a lender who's going to look at that and says, "What is his assignment fee? Who is this person?" That's the problem.
This is not the seller.
This is not the seller. Why are they making $15,000, $20,000, $5,000, and $3,000, or whatever?
Anything, even
right.
even $10 they're not going to want
Right.
to see, right?
Yeah. A traditional, conventional FHA lender will deny that every time. You
right.
go to a traditional bank, and so the whole thing about wholesale deals is, a lot of times they're cash.
Yeah.
Which there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of people have cash. And quite frankly, a lot of buyers, they use lenders that don't really care. Jet lending works on assignment fees all the time. I mean, they will lend on those all day long.
Sure.
I mean,
But then you have to tell the buyer, hey, I can't take your loan. You got to go and call, this lender or that lender.
Right.
And so the answer to the question is it's lender specific, Michael. And most lenders who are processing FHA loans will immediately deny that contract because they're essentially not dealing directly with the seller in this case.
Right.
Now, the next question after that is, well, can I just double close it and be the seller?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, it's of course, if you have to have the money to come in and closing with.
Yeah.
And you also have to remember with FHA, you have the 90-day rule.
That's right, 90
So
season.
even if you double close,
Right.
you have to wait 90 days before you can sign a new contract. It's
right.
not even 90 days till you can close again. It's till you can sign a sales contract with an FHA.
That's right.
So that there you run into that problem. So now you have a 90-day wait period in between the purchase of you closing it and them being able to buy it.
That's very true.
Very much complicates it.
So is it even worth trying if you're a wholesaler out there and you're thinking, hey, I want to try to wholesale a deal to an FHA buyer? Is it even worth going through the process?
I think that there's just way too many hoops to jump through. I don't think that you're ever going to find a lender that's going to approve it unless you're doing some non-traditional lending like hard money lending. It's just not worth your time. It's better to move on and find a buyer who's using cash or non-traditional lending.
Right, I think so too, because I just don't think that you're going to be able to ever sell a wholesale deal to an FHA buyer.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you that I tried because, I try everything.
And you probably tried them on one occasion too.
I tried several times, and I didn't make it through, Michael. So if you want to give it a try on your own, feel free. But I can tell you that it wasn't worth our time to pursue that avenue, and that's why we just simply don't do it anymore. Now, is there ways around it? I'm sure you can find a loophole. I'm sure if you found someone to close on it for you and signed a lease agreement for 90 days and then sold it to that person, if you got creative like that, then you could probably do it. The question is it worth your time to go through all that trouble, right? So I'm not saying it's not possible.
Well, yeah, because now you got to think about it. Even if I double close it, I've got to pull a hard money loan for those 90 days.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at a holding cost
Yep.
Right.
for that hard money. That hard money loan is not just going to sit there with no
right.
payments. I got to make
That's right.
payments on it.
And if you're paying points, which most buyers are paying points, let's say you're paying 2 to 3 points,
yeah.
you've probably already lost all of your potential income.
Oh yeah.
Just on the points, holding costs, closing costs, because more than likely if it's a wholesale transaction, you've paid for most of the closing costs from the seller.
Right.
And now you're going to pay for at least the title policy with the buyer and another set of escrow fees.
Yep.
So by that time you've already eaten up at least 10 grand or so in fees if it's a low end deal.
Right.
And if you're only looking to make 10 grand, then you may
work
walk
for
away
free.
with zero.
Right.
So congratulations, you did it. You sold it to an FHA buyer, but you made no money.
You got experience behind your belt.
Yeah,
I guess.
there you go. You learned a lot. And that's actually what happens. That happens a lot with with wholesalers that try to get real creative and try to go outside the box. And I'm speaking from experience. I'm not, and a lot of what I've gone through is because I said, well, I know I can be creative. I know I can make these things work. And you can find a loophole. At the end of the day, it's how much money did you make for the time that you put into it. And if it's not making you money, don't do it.
See, we work with a couple of hedge funds, and the hedge funds can't buy wholesale deals because we can't issue a title policy on the entire amount, because the assignment fee goes directly to the to the assignee, and it's not part of the policy. Like, for instance, we close on the original contract. So if you have a wholesale deal for $30,000, right?
Yeah.
$30,000, and we had one deal that was flipped over to 9 different wholesalers, and by the time we got to the closing table, it was $118,000.
Wow.
Well, we only issued title policy on $30,000 because that was the contract price.
Yeah.
We can't insure all of the the upfront the payments.
Yeah.
So if there's an issue, there's $88,000 unaccounted for in a
That's
deal
right.
like that.
And these hedge funds, they securitize all those monies, all
Yeah.
these pools. And so what happens is they got stockholders, and so they can't buy wholesale deals at all. I mean, and they're pretty much cash
It makes
money.
sense, because if there was a title issue down the road and they have to come file a claim with you,
Right.
you're only cutting them a check for
$30,000,
$30.
even though they paid $118,000.
Yeah. And
Now they're only paying the title policy for $30,000 on the HUD, but still, it's just there's $118,000 worth of, $80-something thousand worth of uninsured. So if there's a catastrophic claim, I'll write a check for $30,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really dangerous.
It's a good lesson to learn for you guys out there that are buying some of those properties, wholesale properties. If you see a big wholesale fee, and I'm not opposed to paying big wholesale fees. I mean, last year the biggest one that I paid was $30,000 to a wholesaler that brought me a phenomenal deal, and I was happy to cut them.
I mean, we
check.
paid $65,000 wholesale fee before.
Wow.
So it's we've seen some big fees, but at the end of the day, keep that in mind. It's
Right.
when you file a claim, if there's an insurance claim, a title insurance claim, you're definitely not covered for all of the amount that you paid for the property. So that's something that not a lot of people actually talk about or even know about.
Yeah.
Is there a way around that? Is there a workaround?
Unless you do a double close, no.
Yeah.
And double close, you're still insured for what happens. And generally with a double close, the claim's going to happen at the front end, not the back end.
Yeah.
Because obviously, if you're going to hold it for a week, a day, a month, the coverage is only going to happen that week, day, or month. It's not going to happen beforehand, which that would be the first policy.
So from a buyer's perspective, it's almost safer to buy a house that has a big fee in place, a big wholesale fee in place, if they're double closing it.
Absolutely.
Without
Absolutely.
a doubt, right? It makes more sense to go that route. And the way that we generally work them is if the fee is larger than average, then we double close it anyway. Just because we don't want a lot of kickback from the buyer saying, hey, you're making too much money.
Yeah.
And that happens sometimes.
For the buyer or for the seller?
We're both.
Yeah.
Both. The sellers usually are okay. They don't really mind.
Huh.
They know the situation up front.
So the buyer would actually complain?
We've had scenarios where we're at the closing table and they'll say, hey, why are you making $30,000?
Wow.
And we're like, well, that's what it costs to buy the deal, and so either it gets renegotiated or they don't buy the deal at all, or it doesn't close. So
wow.
it's cost us some heartache in the past. We'd rather not go through that, so we just
Double
double
close.
close when the fee is a little bit larger than most fees. I think most buyers out there are okay with seeing like a $10,000, $15,000 fee. But anytime you go above that, I'd rather just lose a little bit than have to be at the closing table and lose a lot.
Now, is it the professional buyer or the novice buyer?
It's the novice buyer.
And they're the ones complaining.
It's the novice
Okay.
buyer that complains. A professional buyer will never complain in regards to how much money you're making if you're bringing them a good deal.
Okay.
That's very true.
A professional buyer will actually congratulate you. And I've been at the closing table with investors before, and they'll see a big $30,000-$40,000 fee, and they're like, "Wow, man,
Good job.
congratulations,
Good job."
You're making more than I am." And I'm like, "Yeah, dude, that's what it takes."
Well, it's kind of like you brought up that you weren't complaining about a $65,000 or $30,000.
I pay them when people bring me
Right.
the deals.
Right.
So when I'm dealing with a professional, I don't expect people to complain either. Now, of course, you don't find a lot of those guys.
Right.
So anyway, all right, when we get right back, we'll continue our conversation. We got another really cool thing to throw at you in the legal aspect of the segment of the show. So we'll be right back, and we'll throw it your way.
Sounds good.
Hey realtors, I have a challenge for you. Walk into your broker's office and ask him to show you how to do a net listing, a wholesale investment transaction, or a subject to. I'm Alan Hernandez, broker of White Picket Realty, and my team and I have been doing these type of transactions for years. We can show you how to do the same and turn small deals into big checks. If you're interested in learning more, please contact join at teamwpr.com. JOIN at teamwpr.com.
Hey Houston investors, do you have a couple deals under your belt, but now you're looking to scale in a more structured way? If so, then the House Flipping Network provides guidance to those looking to grow their real estate business. It's also a great way to mastermind with our experts and groups of like-minded investors just like yourself. If you're interested in more information, reach out to me, David at houseflippingnetwork.com. That's David at houseflippingnetwork.com.
Hey Houston, this is Alan Hernandez, and I want to remind you guys to visit our friends over at Quest IRA to learn everything there is to learn about investing with your IRA. Now, if you haven't been over there recently, you have to check them out. They have free educational classes, networking opportunities, the ability to tap into $1 billion for your real estate investing deals. These are the guys to know when it comes to learning about this kind of stuff. You want to make sure you visit them and check them out over at www.questira.com. Again, that's questira.com.
Hey everyone, this is David over at White Picket Realty, and I wanted to tell you about my friends over at Plans Express who can save you the headache of running your own permits. These guys are committed to offering a one-stop solution for all your plan and permit needs. They're proudly serving their friends and neighbors in the Houston surrounding areas, and they offer great service and an exceptional value. With dedicated professionals ready to serve, contact them today at 832-675-6217.
And we are back on the Realty Ruckus. We're coming into our last segment here. And so we want to make sure that we get your legal questions answered. So if you have any legal questions for us, make sure you comment on YouTube or on Facebook, as well as you can tweet us at Realty Ruckus. That's at Realty Ruckus.
Yeah, and sorry about that, guys. We had a little technical error. For some reason, the Facebook live feed stopped, so we had to relaunch it. And if you're still on, we sincerely appreciate it. If not, don't forget that you can always join us on YouTube. The YouTube feed never fails, and it's a lot more interactive on our end because we can show you videos and show you sounds and other cool stuff. So. Thank you again for joining us. We're going to wrap up today's show with talking a little bit more about FHA and some of the things that we've learned here in the last week. So if you guys joined us earlier in the week during our happy hours show, one of our guests, Curtis Warden, our guest host, Curtis Warden, brought up an interesting an idea to the table in regards to dealing with buyers that are buying with FHA. So the thing that we deal with a lot when you're in the sale end of the business is that you put your property up for sale and you generally get 2 or 3 FHA offers, and you're always worried about those contracts. You're always worried because they hardly ever close. And the reason that is because they generally wait all the way to the end after their inspection period, after their option period is over, to do their appraisal.
Yeah, they hardly ever close on time.
They hardly ever close on time. They
close, but they don't hardly ever close on time.
Yeah. So we had a scenario recently where the deal busted out not once but twice because of the appraisal that was in place, and because the property didn't appraise for the actual sales price. And of course, when you're dealing with an FHA buyer, that gives the buyer the option to collect their earnest money back and walk away.
Right.
And that stinks for you as a seller. And if you're an agent and you're representing your seller, your seller is going to ask you why that is. Your seller is always going to be like, well, why can't I keep the earnest money? That doesn't make sense. I get it all the time. So you want to understand, what you can do. The idea was that if you write a provision into the contract that says that the buyer must conclude not only their inspection but also their appraisal within that option and provide you with a copy of it, that at that point you're at least you're at least going to know whether that buyer is going to move forward or not within those first 10 to 15 days.
Right.
And so, Ashley, we talked about the legalities of that, and we said, you know, we don't ever want to advise realtors to write anything and practice law by writing things into special provisions.
Right.
But in this case, we figured that it might be something that is possible.
Well, I wouldn't ever say a realtor write anything in special provisions, because if it's not dealing with the numbers, don't do it. But, you know, if you have an attorney friend, or for instance, myself, I'm an attorney friend. So
There you go,
I
guys.
can write it. So if you write it in the contract, email it to me and let me send it back. I do this probably about 10 times a day, where realtors are constantly emailing me contracts and says, hey, can you look at special provisions? And I bless it and send it back.
All you need is Ashley's blessing on those contracts when you do write something as to special provisions, guys. And you know, we're talking about just writing something relatively simple, but I see people write crazy things into special
Oh
provisions.
man, I've
sometimes.
seen people write special provisions that look like an entirely different contract.
Yeah,
Or
they'll
they'll
contradict the contract.
That's the problem. They
Yeah.
contradict the contract.
put together amendment, and they'll write in special provisions, see amendment A, B, C, D,
Yes.
that they created like on their own Word files at home.
Yeah.
And they don't, like, they either contradict the contract, or there's things in there that don't make sense, or it's not very clearly written because it's just not written in a legal language. It's too open for interpretation.
Yeah.
So I see that all the time.
See, I don't practice real estate, so realtors don't practice law.
Yes, that's good advice, guys. Anyway, the point of that is that we think, all right, and we're going to try this for the next couple of transactions, that if this works out, this may be a great way for you as realtors to protect your sellers. And if you're an investor, because we do have a lot of investors that listen to the show, to keep from getting dragged on for 45 days when you do decide to accept an FHA contract.
You know, and we talked earlier about legality. I do have something to say about practicality. Legally, you can put that in special provisions that you must, have in your inspection and your appraisal done within 15 days. But in reality, now practicality, I did speak with a couple lenders after the show because I was thinking, hey, this could be a really great thing.
Yeah.
Now the problem is the lender is not bound to special provisions. So if you force the buyer's hand to purchase the appraisal, purchase the inspection, it doesn't mean the lender has to underwrite it. But at least they put out $1,000, and so it may still do the same purpose, but you may still wait 45 days to get a denial. So there may not be any way, because you can't force the hand of the lender to get it done within 15 days. Right. So even if you get a copy of it, that doesn't mean the lender gets a copy of it or looks at it, because lenders are like everybody else. They wait till the 11th hour to do anything.
Yeah.
And so you still may not get your approval or your disapproval until the 45th day, but at least they're vested $1,000 in it. And so I still think, it's a game changer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the idea a lot, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that if the appraisal came in low, then you have an issue. So
Right.
whether the underwriter says it or not, you're already aware of it as the seller. You're okay. It came in 10 grand low. This is FHA, and if they tell, and that gives you your opportunity right then and there to say,
That's right.
are you going to bring 10 grand to the table or not?
Mm-hmm.
And if they say no, then okay, then get out during your option period.
Gotta go, so we can move on to the next buyer.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
The issue on the seller side or on the investor side is always the time factor, especially when you're in a time crunch, when you're trying to sell your property during the summer months. You tie up your property for 45 days, you're in trouble.
Right.
You're in trouble. You know, and if you listed your property in August, for example, August 1st, you don't have the entire month to sell that property before it slows down a little bit. You want to get a good, solid contract up front and just move on. So anyway, we don't have a lot of investor or real estate events to talk about this month because everyone's kind of pushing back towards the end of the month. So the only thing that we have coming up is the jet lending event, which is next Wednesday?
Third Wednesday of every month, yeah.
Third Wednesday of every month. If you guys have never been out to Jet Lending's event, we do want to let you guys, if you're listening.
Oh, and they changed the venue too. I think it's going to be at the Redneck Country Club now.
Oh, really? I did not know that.
Oh, very cool. I didn't know that either, but it's a phenomenal event to go to. So if you guys are out there listening and want to know of a cool event to reach out to and learn about investment property and meet some really, really great people in the industry, that's definitely an event that we want to recommend and have you go out there and check it out. As far as this weekend is concerned, I'm sure that everyone's just worried about getting their last minute school supplies. I know that it's not tax-free weekend anymore, and I hope that you guys didn't go to the mall during tax-free weekend, because if you did, you probably stood in line for 3 hours.
I'd rather pay tax.
Exactly. Some people don't get that. Anyway, guys, thank you guys very much for joining us. That actually concludes our show for today. The time goes by so fast. We thank you again. We look forward to seeing you guys next Tuesday. Don't forget, next Tuesday's show starts at 10 a.m. from 10 to 11, and we're gonna have a phenomenal show planned out for you guys. We'll see you then, and have a great weekend.
This has been the Realty Ruckus. Make sure and join us every Tuesday and Friday for new episodes. Find us on YouTube and Facebook for replays of previous episodes. And as always, keep elevating yourself and keep up your ruckus. Thanks for listening. Realty Ruckus has been brought to you by Smart Pig Media Productions.